So how was class?
Great. I left the car on.
Yes. Why don't you elaborate for our listeners on that?
Listen, what had happened was I went straight from working to teaching to cooking chicken that I thought was raw. And then I walked in, I was like, damn, I smell like chicken. And then there was a person waiting for me at the door. So I was like, gotta go, gotta go, gotta go. And then the car was beeping at me and it was like, you left your key in the car. I was like, Nick left his key in the car. But it turns out it was like, bitch, you left your car on. In love with movies, in love, in love,
Danny and Nick.
in love with movies. Da-da-da.
Well, hello, movie lovers, and welcome to In Love with Movies.
I'm Danny.
And I'm Nick.
And this is In Love with Movies. Nick just said that.
I sure did. What is it we do on In Love with Movies, Danny?
Oh, we talk about the love. And we talk about what else, Nick?
Movies.
Sneak.
So we're not doing the Nick Danny bit anymore? Is that dropped now?
I don't know, Danny. You tell
dear.
me.
Okay. Yeah, no, movie lovers, if you've stumbled onto this podcast, maybe you found us because we got some traction with some trailer reaction videos.
Because we're famous.
Far from it, but we are getting a little bit more of an audience, and I appreciate that. So welcome. Thank you. For if you're a returning listener, also welcome to you. You already know that we love you. Although Danny apparently is tired of all of you. Or perhaps just me.
I'm just tired.
That's okay.
It's been a long day.
That's allowed to happen. It's been a long week. It has actually been a rough
it's
week.
Monday, Nick.
I know.
It's Tuesday, 11.
Well, but here on this podcast, we appreciate all forms of love. Love is love. But we also like to get to know each other through movies and get to know our loved ones through the movies that they share with us. And today we are discussing what movie in the second half, Danielle?
A League of Their Own.
A League of Their Own. And had you seen this movie before?
Apparently not.
A little bit more on that later on. But before we get to that, we're going to have a little bit of a topic here we normally cover at the beginning. If we don't have a guest, Danielle and I try to come up with something that's a little bit about us discussing love. When you get to the second half, if you're watching this on either Spotify or YouTube, you may notice that we are dressed differently. Surprise! A little bit of behind the scenes. Sorry to ruin the podcast magic for everyone, but we are recording these two different halves about 2 or 3 weeks apart. Isn't that right, Danny?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we're doing that because
I'm too busy.
No, that's actually not what I was going to say. Although how long it took for us to get the second half had something to do with that. No, so movie lovers, just a little peek behind the curtain. Knowing that we were not going to have guests for this episode, we were trying to hit A League of Their Own because of the new TV series coming out very much so by the time you all are listening to this. But we wanted to try and cover League of Their Own because Danny had seen it, all these other reasons. And then knowing it would be just the two of us, I said, hey, Danny, you know, it'd be really awesome if you, there you go. There's that improv skill. It would be really awesome if maybe you came up with something that would give us something to talk about in the first half and would since we don't have a couple to just bounce off of, give us a little bit more of a love topic, and it would really mean a lot to me if you took ownership of that and did something really cool with it. Do you remember that?
Yeah, and so I did come up with a love topic.
That's what I was going to say. My lovely wife. Go ahead.
Okay, listen. I came up with a love topic, and then when I pitched it to Nick, he was like, I'm not ready. I can't improvise.
There you go. And that's what I was going to say. She took the assignment. She did exactly what I asked for, had this really cool idea, which I will have her explain in a minute, and then expected me to be able to come up with this answer to this question and idea within an hour. And that created an existential crisis where I had to seriously consider my values and think about what is important to me in my life and my...
No, it's on now. It's good.
Okay.
What were you saying?
I genuinely don't know.
You're having an existential crisis.
I was having an existential crisis. Audio just got dropped, movie lovers, so there's probably an edit in here. Sorry about that. Mm-hmm. Boy, it is just one of those episodes, apparently.
It just doesn't, it's not meant to happen. So let me explain my side of things. Nick was like, pick a prompt. I said, I got this. I'm an improviser. So what the topic I wanted to talk about was, because we've been on all these bachelorette parties, I was thinking about girl gangs. I was thinking about a baseball team, assembling your team. And so I was like, come up with your dream gang, dream team. I said like dream group of friends. I don't know. I didn't really have it flushed out.
I think you're exact. Okay, so I love that admission that she didn't
I still don't
exactly
even
have
have
it
the
flushed out.
answer.
But you said come up with your ideal, like your dream squad. Was your word?
Yeah.
Squad.
Yeah, because I've been around a lot of ladies lately, and frankly, I'm having a great time.
Well, that's great.
I love women.
But that prompt, while it seems like just this frivolous thing that Danielle threw out there and was able to apparently still come up with it on the fly weeks later, that caused me to have to think about, like, well, what is it do I look for in friendships? What are the most important things? And I ask for parameters. What are the sort of, do we mean that we need somebody to fill a specific role? Are we looking for a catcher, a coach, and a first baseman? Are we doing with the baseball metaphor? And she's like, no, not really. And then I was like, well, then what do you mean? I don't know, just your squad. It was a great idea that I just needed more time and more boundaries for, not barriers, boundaries for. So we talked about it. We had some boundaries. We created some boundaries. There's still a loose enough feeling for Danielle, apparently. But so that is where we come to, and that is what we have. So explain to us, Danielle, what is your squad? Do you want to go member to member, like 1-1, or do you want to go, all of yours and then all of mine? How do you want to do this?
I'm just going to talk, and then you talk, and then I'll talk, and then you talk. So my squad, I was thinking about this.
Does anyone else listening to this think that didn't answer my question, or am I the only one?
People just stopped listening to this podcast. Like, what is this bish talking about?
Yeah, and they're referring to me as the bish. Yeah.
I was just thinking about love comes in all forms, and it comes in like, like me to feel full, I think, in a group of friends, and especially in a group of ladies. I got like my people for different things.
Okay.
And like, truly, I keep saying this, but being around so many women the past couple of weeks, being around women used to be hard for me. I'd always compare myself to others. Girls are not typically nice to each other, especially when they're younger. I got bullied a lot when I was in high school and younger and older. I even got bullied in college. But it was very refreshing to be, even though we were being wild and wearing wigs and going to cowboy stripper shows and doing all this stuff, it's very nice to be fulfilled by different women and different just groups of friends. And I don't know, it's still a very loose idea, and I'm sorry, but can I tell you, so my squad, I got like these different personalities, and I do think I surround myself
I would love
with.
to hear this.
So
waiting with bated breath.
My squad, I'm gonna give you like 4 or 5 people. Okay.
Oh, okay. See, I didn't even get a number, movie lovers.
My first person, someone that I always want with me, someone that's gonna be a true love. Not like true love, but will truly show love through honesty. I need someone who's always going to be honest with me no matter what. And so we're picking fictional squads, right? I have a real life squad that I love, and I'm not going to name names, but you know who you are, my squad.
We have a previous episode that talks about girl love and lady love, and maybe I'll put that in the show notes if I can figure out which episode that is. Yeah. And please go back to that to hear all about Danielle's real friends that actually support her in real life. But
on my fictional squad, I need an honest lady. And you know who that would be, Nick? Can you guess?
No idea.
Really?
I did Nicole Byer, but she's not,
oh no,
fictional.
She's also on my squad, but Wonder Woman.
Okay, I get down with Wonder Woman.
I need Wonder Woman. She's very like pious and very she upholds rules, and I'm not a rule follower, but she would also always tell me the truth. Okay,
so I got this. She's got that lasso of truth, right? And if you're not telling the truth, she'll just make other people tell the truth.
Yeah. Exactly.
Question though. See, I'm enough of a nerd, and this is a perfect example, movie lovers, of why this prompt was a problem for me. Okay, so do we mean Gal Gadot from the movies Wonder Woman? Are we talking about some version of the comics? Are we talking about some particular story that you think of? What?
I like when she comes out of the bunker and she goes.
Yes, because her honesty was very much on display in that amazing moment from the first Wonder Woman movie.
Let me just have Wonder Woman. Okay, who's your first person?
Wonder Woman. We're not going any further than that.
Correct.
Oh, dearie me, oh my. Okay, so I have to give a bit of a preface. I still had no idea what number we were supposed to be going with. I had no idea if there were specific slots in terms of honesty that we were going with. So this is part of where it became an existential crisis for me. And I had to think about what are the important things for me in terms of friendship. Okay. And that was something I've been wrestling with, because it's like, I like to think I could be friends with anyone and have relationships with anyone. And so what is it that's core and critical for me? And I kind of came across thinking about some of these like worst times. I can't remember if I've shared it on the podcast, but I can remember just like being vulnerable with friends, male friends, especially in high school, saying things like talking about girls. And I can remember this one particular story that literally ended in a physical fight with me and some other guy that was kind of a peripheral friend, where I was like, yeah, man, I mean, sometimes it's nice when you're lying naked with a lady and you're just lying there, skin to skin contact. Physical touch is one of my love languages. Go back to our previous episodes to hear about that. Not even talking about sex at the time. And the dudes made so much fun of me. And that idea of like that emotional vulnerability being, you know, slapped back in your face and made fun of. So I realized I need sort of that ability to be one's true self with their friends. And that's the only way you're going to really get close to me as a friend. And some friends have stayed that way and been with my life through that. But that is to get at like, so then I started Googling like emotionally sensitive characters or other phrases. I'm thinking emotionally patience or need for emotional presence, lots of different ways of phrases that I eventually came upon. And Danielle's going to hate this.
Uh-oh.
My fellow scientific movie lovers are going to love it.
Uh-oh.
There is something called the Open Source Psychometrics Project.
Okay.
Which has taken fictional characters and used scientifically sound personality measures, okay? And so you know how you can do like the BuzzFeed of like, which character are you? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of that garbage, which is almost always a typology where it's like there's 4 possible characters, there's 4 answers to all 10 of the questions, and each one of those answers is clearly one of those characters, right? Instead, they took more than 400 different survey metrics and 400 different characters, and they had people rate them in terms of all these multiple things like Hexaco, 16PF, which I talk about all the time because it's where I discovered social boldness and the fact that I'm an introvert, the Big Five, which anybody knows, all kinds of stuff. All right. So again, open source psychometrics project. It's interesting. It's fascinating. And then I went down this rabbit hole and was cross-listing all of these different sort of phrases like loyalty, one-faced as opposed to two-faced, giving or taking, wholesome, reassuring, altruistic. And then I found like some other cooler characters. So Danielle was like totally in shock. Movie lovers who are just listening to this, you don't get to see this face of like, what the
when did you even do all this research? This is why you needed more than an hour, huh?
Yes. And that doesn't even count the like, again, existential crisis that I had to go through just to get to the point where I could then have the right search terms. So I bring all of this up to say like across all of these, and it gives you correlations in terms of, and they have these great lists of top 25, bottom 25, because they're all polar scales like extrovert, introvert. There was one name that kept coming up.
Yeah.
One name in almost every single one of these lists of personality traits that I was interested in. And it was one that I should have known and thought of first.
Can I guess?
What's the name?
Clark Kent.
Great guess. Clark Kent Superman does come up on later ones. Also, Smallville's Clark Kent kept coming up on a couple of them, but he is not the name that came up on like, I kid you not, I went through at least a dozen of these possible personality traits, and one name kept ending up in the top 25.
Jesus.
Fictional characters.
Oh, sorry.
Fictional characters. I'm putting that away. Ted Lasso.
Oh, that makes sense.
Ted Lasso. Aww. And I was like, that makes total sense. Even me and my friends, we sometimes joke that we are the Diamond Dogs because we're trying to like be men who actually share feelings with each other. For those of you who don't know, Ted Lasso is an amazing show on Apple. You should watch it if you can borrow someone's screener if you don't already have a login for that. But Ted Lasso, that character, he is just like, he's there, he's going to be the coach, he's going to bring up everybody's energy, and at the same time he's going to create a space where everybody can bring their true selves to any given outing. So Ted Lasso is my first name because he's awesome, he's upbeat, but at the same time he's got layers himself. You get into that second season and he's got some deep shit that he's getting through too. So
yeah, that's a good one. That took a very long time for you to
I promise the rest will be quicker because the rest of the names come from a lot of those lists, but I don't have to give the background.
Take that test, that quiz? Or whatever
they did actually have take this quiz and it'll tell you like which character you are based upon how well you correlate with these given personality traits that others have rated those characters on.
See, I'm not the only one who thinks about this stuff. The internet also thinks about this stuff. So I didn't even know any of this existed. This just came from my head. So
this isn't some squad thing. This is like they took the BuzzFeed idea and we're like, you know what we're going to do with the BuzzFeed bowl? Because everyone who listens to us knows that I hate personality types. Instead, we're going to use personality traits, sound psychometrically propertied tests. Sorry, continue.
Great. Okay.
Number 2.
I didn't use any sources except for my brain. And as Nick was just talking and I trailed off a little bit.
That's our marriage, movie lovers. She just stops listening to me at times.
All the words that Nick says, because there's a lot of them. So I still haven't had my full team. But I was thinking I was also thinking I need someone who's really going to lift me up and is going to like be kind of my like support person.
Okay, I like this.
My support person.
Your support perso.
And that perso is Leslie Knope.
Leslie Knope is one of the names that came up on my list. She may or may not. I had her as a sort of I didn't know how deep I was going to have to go on this bench. Leslie was on the list as well.
Oh, could I have her though? Because I said her first.
I guess. Why else? So you just like Leslie Knope because she's going to bring you up. She's going to make you feel good about yourself.
She's always like, and you big, beautiful, wild, wonderful. She's always, but then she's also like a go-getter. And actually, one of the best compliments someone has ever given to me was a student who hadn't met me, and she raised her hand and she goes, "You remind me of Leslie Knope." And I said, "Oh my God."
The vapors.
But also I have friends who tell me I remind them of Leslie Knope. And like, she's just a great character. She's a little lost sometimes and she gets herself into weird predicaments sometimes, but she's always truthful and honest and tries really, really hard for the common good.
Agreed. And I would argue that some of the things that you have in common with her is like she is comically overbooked in her life. There's jokes about her just like not sleeping and staying up all night creating binders, and like where does she find the time to do the things that she does? I feel that way about you on a fairly regular basis.
Yeah, I would like to be here, but if I can't be here, I would like her to be in my squad.
Okay.
All right. Who you got next?
All right. So in addition to this was actually one of the harder ones that I had to find. So there's a bunch of others that I will continue to list from some of those other lists, but then there were ones that I had to like search cool guys, right? And once I knew I needed at least somebody that would be able to be earnest at times or would not make fun of people in sort of a mean-spirited way. But I wanted a cool guy, somebody who's going to bring the party, somebody who's going to bring the fun. And I picked Peter Venkman.
ADK.
Movie lovers, at least some people immediately know who Peter Venkman is. Peter Venkman is Bill Murray's character from Ghostbusters.
Oh.
So he's funny. He's maybe admittedly a little bit outdated and misogynistic, but he's like always, I think, trying to go for the joke. And I think in the right crowd of dudes, that misogyny could be tamped down. He is always kind of poking fun at people and maybe playing pranks type of dude, but also, you know, doesn't seem mean-spirited with those things. And I always felt, at least from those movies, that, you know, he with Egon and I'm forgetting Dan Aykroyd's character right now, but like those guys are kind of like way nerdier than he is, but he's able to sort of meet them on their level and he brings up their cool factor just a little bit. So I definitely would probably be more of a Dan Aykroyd's character from Ghostbusters. So I need somebody to bring up my my coolness.
Cool. All right. You ready for my next person?
Let's bring it. What's 3?
Okay. I wanted someone that was rich.
Okay. Yep. All right. I have a rich one next. Very good.
Oh, really?
Yep.
We didn't even talk about this. In my real life friend group, I don't really have a rich friend. Unfortunately, we're all in education, but I just chose one of the rich women. So my squad's all women, obviously. Off the top of my head, I was just thinking, yep, Miranda Priestley.
Okay. Wait, hold up. Miranda Priestley from Devil Wears Prada.
Yes.
You actually think that would be a fun person to have around you?
No, I said rich person.
Okay. Do you think she's going to give money to your friend group for absolutely no reason?
At the end of the movie, she has a bit of a transformation.
She has like a moment of weakness with one particular character.
Let me have it, okay?
All right, we'll fight it. All right. I don't personally see why Miranda Priestley would...
Do you have another richer woman that you could think of? Okay, I really didn't plan this out until like as we're sitting right now.
Okay, you know who it's going to be? What's the character's name from that show Loot, played by Maya Rudolph?
I don't know her name. I've only watched 3 episodes, but that's a good one. Yeah, okay. That's a good idea.
She has more money than she even knows what to do with. She doesn't care what happens with it, and she's desperately looking for friends, and she uses her money to get them.
All right, you're right. Okay. Who's your rich person?
All right, you look up her actual name while I give you my rich person. Now, as much as I gave Danielle shit for not having somebody that would actually bankroll or having a justification for it, my person probably wouldn't have any care to give us money either. But my argument here is that perhaps this person won't know the money's being gone because they're another person that has more money than they know what to do with. Tony Stark.
Oh, that's a good one.
Basically, when I thought of who's going to bankroll our fun adventures, who's the person in popular culture that seems to bankroll other people's adventures, it was either Tony Stark or Batman, Bruce Wayne. And Bruce Wayne is just way too dour, way too serious, way too brutish. And I already am like a sad, dark, brutish person. So I didn't need more of that. I wanted less of it. So I went with Tony Stark.
I like it.
Okay. Did you find the character's name?
Yeah, her name's Molly something or other.
Molly something or other from the show Loot. That's going to be your bankroll.
Yeah.
All right. Did you have any other slots or characters?
Yeah, I have the person who is always a fun time, always looking to do something crazy. Is kind of like off their rocker. You said Nicole Byer, but that's not a fictional character. So I thought I would bring in a fictional character. Megan from Bridesmaids, played by Melissa McCarthy.
Okay, I'm down for that. Yeah.
Honestly, that is my favorite role that she's ever played. I think it's hysterical. And she's like genuinely a kind, good human, but is always like, hey, we're going to do all these things. And like she ends up, I haven't seen that movie in so long. Maybe
we should watch it again. We
should
could watch it for this. I'd love that.
But she ends up with a bunch of dogs at some point, right?
She's down to clown. She's always open for a fun, crazy time.
Yes.
But yeah, she's also not a dick.
Yeah. Yeah, I like her.
I like that. Okay, I like that. All right, should I just go through a couple of honorable mentions that don't really fill any specific slots now then?
Okay.
Does that work for you?
Sure.
All right, so some other ones that I found that kind of go along with the themes of just good-hearted individuals to be with things. Samwise Gamgee.
Yep, I know exactly who that is. Wait, can I guess who that is?
Please do.
In Rogue One.
Nope.
Blind person.
Yeah, a good guess. I've got somebody else filling the Rogue One blind person type of role. Samwise Gamgee is Frodo's constant companion in Lord of the Rings. Samwise Gamgee is always there for his friend. He's the most loyal. I think he was literally #1 in terms of the loyalty for those lists that I was talking about. And I didn't want him to be the only guy that was kind of my support structure because, frankly, Frodo kind of abuses him as a friend and is not very nice. And Samwise is just like, he's that friend who's always there for you. And it's nice to have him there. He's always going to make you feel better, but he's also like going to get taken advantage of. And I feel bad doing that. So I wanted to have him be balanced out with other individuals. To go off of, you just mentioned the blind character. I think his name's Chirrut from Rogue One. Not him. Why go for a partial Jedi or a somewhat Force adjacent person when you could bring your spiritual center, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ewan McGregor himself? I would take Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ewan McGregor Obi-Wan, or Clone Wars TV show Obi-Wan would be the character that I would bring along.
I like that.
He's gonna be there. He can help like protect us if we get into some stupid stuff, if it really comes to fisticuffs, but also he's gonna be there to cool the situation down. I've been working a lot on my mindfulness and my spirituality, and I think that Obi-Wan could be a very good mentor in that regard as well.
Cool. Do I get to say honorable mentions?
I assumed, but do you want to go back and forth, or do you want me to finish?
I just burped.
That's great.
I want to go now.
Okay, go.
A person that I would like to be friends with, and I am friends with a real life lawyer, but Elle Woods would be a great friend, I think.
Very
because
good.
She's beautiful, but not stuck up.
Correct.
And everyone likes her, and she always wants to do the right thing. And she has a cute little dog.
Okay.
Yeah. And you said 2, so I'm gonna say another one.
Go for it.
Also Gracie Lou Freebush. Just in case you need protection.
There you go. Yeah. She would break a mofo's arm if he spoke wrong to you.
Sing.
Yeah.
Solarplex, instep, nose, groin.
This is how I know my wife will actually be able to protect herself if anything were to happen to her on the mean streets of Chicago.
You just gotta sing.
Just gotta sing. Very good. I like both of those choices.
Thank you.
And not surprising because they are 2 of your most favorite characters. And I feel like I made this joke when you said, like, I don't know, a panel of 5 people who are characters from popular culture. And I think I literally said to you, could you name 5 different characters from popular culture?
I just did.
Okay, there you go. But notice they're all movies we have covered, movies that are some of Danny's favorites, which is also totally fine.
I'm not gonna know a character from a movie I've never seen.
Touche. I have 2 others.
Okay.
One kind of fits in the same slot as Samwise for different reasons, and one kind of fits in the same slot as Obi-Wan for different reasons. But I could not, if I was going to put together a list of my besties, people I would want to be close friends with, I could not neglect Superman. So then the only question was which version of Superman, right? Are we going with the Smallville or we're going with the comic book? I ended up deciding to go for a somewhat obscure one, the Brandon Routh Superman from Superman Returns. And movie lovers, if you are a fan of the Superman Returns movie, you may know that's the one with Kevin Spacey. He also probably shouldn't be named anymore, but he plays Lex Luthor. Turns out he actually is a supervillain in real life, unfortunately. But Brandon Routh, it was sort of a continuation of the 1978 Superman. Like if that series of 4 movies kind of ended after 1 or 2, and then we have Brandon Routh playing basically Christopher Reeves, but looking much more like Henry Cavill, which is why I would pick Brandon Routh as Superman. My other is someone who's going to be able to fix anything. Let's say we're on a road trip and the car breaks down, some stuff goes south. We just need somebody who's going to be there, but also is going to be empathetic and is going to be this person's name I first noticed on the like most one-faced. Like they're very straightforward. They're not going to go behind your back or anything like that. It's a character that's named, and I had to write her name down because I was just thinking of her as the mechanic from the show Firefly, but her name is Kaylee Fry. Kaylee Fry is, do you ever watch the show Even Stevens?
Yes.
Okay.
I thought you were going to say Fireflies. Absolutely not.
The girl in Even Stevens is
Ren.
the actress who plays. There you go. The girl in Even Stevens is the actress who plays this character, Kaylee Fry. I also kind of have the hots for her a little bit. So, like I feel like lots of friend groups need to have that if you're going to have same sex or opposite sex rather couplings or things like that. Maybe there needs to be tension, a little bit of will there, won't they energy. The answer is won't they. I'm a happily married man, but I always had a crush on her, and that character is just really, I think, a lot of fun and very kind, and it would be always very genuine and be there for you and would fix any problem that you created.
Her name is on the top of my tongue.
Kaylee Fry?
No, the actual actress's name.
Oh, darn it. I could look that up.
Yeah, look it up. Well, I tell you my final person. Who's not a person. They're a cat.
No.
Their name is Thackeray Binks.
Oh my goodness. But you want Thackeray Binks as a cat. You don't want like...
Oh, Thackeray Binks is also hot as a ghost.
That's what I'm saying.
No, I want a cat in my group. I love cats.
I feel like you only picked a guy because...
Because you picked a girl?
Yeah, basically. Oh, you know what? I'm also confusing which movie it is or which TV show it was. It wasn't Even Stevens. Don't be mad at me. Uh-oh. Nick got his movies and his people wrong, his actors and actresses. You are thinking of Ren Stevens was Christy Carlson Romano.
Yes, I knew that.
Christy Carlson Romano.
CCR,
Sure, CCR. Yeah. The actress I am thinking of is a woman named Jewel Staite or Stat, S-T-A-I-T. The TV show that I'm apparently thinking of her from, oh man, it's going to be so long ago. It was like an old Disney one. It had the guy Benjamin, what have you. Keep vamping. Talk about something else and I'll figure out what TV show it was.
Nick didn't do his research.
Oh no.
Unlike me, who clearly had all of this planned out ahead of time. Movie lovers, if you think this was stupid, let us know, because I was trying to make a topic that would be fun. But then it made me think, Nick, that we should do a podcast just about like our favorite movie characters in general.
That's
I mean, not a podcast, like one of our episodes would talk about. Okay. I'm not making another podcast.
Okay. The show that I was trying to think of is a show called Flash Forward.
The hell is that?
That is even earlier. It's got Ben Foster is the other side of it, and Flash Forward, it's like this 2 kids near each other, growing up next to each other type of thing. Anyway, I had a crush on her back from that show, Flash Forward, and then she showed up in Firefly, and I like her character a lot more in Firefly, and is just somebody you could actually count on. Any other fictional characters you want in your squad, Danny?
Yeah, I was also thinking of Damien from Mean Girls.
Is that because we're pretty sure that actor is on Secret Celebrity?
No, it's because I always need a gay friend.
Okay, fair enough. All right.
And he's not afraid to tell it like it is.
He's almost too gay to function.
She doesn't even go here.
And he is a really great support structure. Okay, good friend. I'll give you that. Yeah, he's a good gay friend. In fact, I would argue probably in my mind the like archetype for the best sort of gay friend on, you know what I mean? Yeah. Support. All right. Well, now we should move along quickly because we wanted to get through it fast to our next segment. What is this segment called, Danny?
Hashtag closer through science.
That's right. Hashtag closer through science, where we're going to answer or ask each other questions that are developed for a research study that was done some years ago by Aaron et al. 1997, where they asked 36 questions. They had complete strangers come into a room. They made them ask each other these questions. And by the time they left, they were more close to each other emotionally because they're progressively more and more difficult questions. And we are getting to the end of that list.
Yeah. So which number are you asking?
This number is going to be 29. We've kind of skipped around a little bit, but this number is 29. It's from the last grouping of them. And the question is, share with your partner, with us listeners, what is an embarrassing moment from your life?
You want me to share?
Yeah, sure. You go first.
Okay. The one that comes up a lot, and gosh, I hope we didn't talk about this already.
Uh-oh.
But when I was younger, I was in all dance. I was in like modern tap, ballet, all that stuff.
Okay.
And so along with that came recitals and all of our costumes and stuff. This was even before I was an Irish dancer, or maybe at the same time. But anyways, I remember we had a costume fitting one day at the Park District, and they're like, all the girls go into the bathroom and change and try on your uniforms and stuff. And because I was a really good dancer, I was in the age group ahead of me. So I was the youngest girl, and they all had boobs and I didn't.
Oh.
But I remember wearing like a training bra because I was like, Mommy, they have boobs and they have bras. And as I was coming out after changing, I realized that my little baby training bra had like been in the middle of the bathroom, and I was like, oh, and so I whipped it into the stall that I was in to be like, no one will see it. It's fine. It's like, I'll just throw it back with my clothes. I'll change back into it. And then I ended up throwing it in the toilet.
Oh.
And then I was so embarrassed. I didn't know what to do with it. So I left it in the toilet, and I was like, no one knows. I don't have boobs anyway, so I don't have to put my bra back on. So we all came back, and then a janitor came to the room and went, excuse me, girls? And then held up my wet training bra.
Oh my God. I don't think I remember hearing this story ever. So I don't think you shared it on the podcast.
Oh, and they said, is this anybody's? And I was mortified, and all the girls were like, hee. And so guess what? It wasn't mine. I said, nope, that's so embarrassing for whatever girl threw her own bra in the toilet. And I never got it back.
Oh, baby. My heart goes out to little you.
I mean, I was also really chubby and like didn't have a lot of friends in that because I was like a very talented dancer, but also like a fat dancer.
Oh.
Yeah. And I think about it often.
That breaks my heart. I can't top that. So I'm just going to say, like, hey, rewind to the earlier part where I said that there was a story that I shared something really vulnerable with my friends in high school, and it ended up with them making fun of me and getting into a fisticuff fight. That's it. I'm not even going to bother. I want movie lovers to sit here.
In my wet training bra.
Yes, I'm going to sit there in your wet training bra. All right. So, well, that is everything that we have for you on the love side of things, movie lovers. Thank you so much for listening to us. After this, you're going to have a quick little break, and then we are going to see you on the other side for what's the movie again, Danny?
A League of Their Own.
In love with movies. Da-da-da.
And we're back. Wow, that was not great. We literally like talked about it and practiced it in advance. Still not in sync.
Or Backstreet Boys.
Okay, then. Welcome back, movie lovers, to the portion of the podcast where we end up discussing a movie. And tell us again, Danny, what movie are we talking about today?
A League of Their Own, which literally this is the first time I've ever seen this movie.
Which
Unbelievable.
Is shocking to me for many different reasons, but we will get into it. We are watching A League of Their Own in part because right around the same time of the release of this episode, there has been a new Amazon original TV show by the same name with Abby Jacobson, who we are a fan of a lot of her work. And so we are very excited for this TV show. Full disclosure, there won't be any real spoilers. We have not yet seen this show. We've seen one episode, just the very first episode. But you know, we have heard mixed reviews, I would say, and that makes me sad. I really want it to be awesome and out of the park the way that I feel about this movie. A little bit of a spoiler in terms of where my rating might end up.
Knock it out of the park like baseball. Is that what you were saying?
Home run.
All right.
So anyway, so we're watching A League of Their Own. But speaking about not the TV show, instead this movie, a little bit of opening credits as we often go through here. By the way, if anybody wants to create like a 2 to 3 second sting, like a Danny's Dingle sting, but for opening credits for
Something
us,
like ba-ba-da-da-da-da. Wait, was that? What is that from? Is that Star Wars?
I think you're stealing it basically from the 20th Century Fox opening.
No, that's.
I
I didn't do that. I did. Ba-da-da-da-da-da.
So anyway,
Tell us the da-da-da-da-da. Tell us the opening credits, Nick.
here I am trying to engage with our listeners, the movie lovers out there, and Danny is like, no, use this.
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Opening credits. This movie came out in 1992. So, you know.
It did?
Yeah.
I came out in 1992.
Oh, my God. That's accurate. I did not check the specific date. This movie could have come out the same weekend you did, for all I know.
Wow.
So this movie is 30 years old at this point, due for probably a remake, but it is truly, I think, a classic, and came out in 1992, starring Gina Davis. Gina Davis was kind of a household name at the time, although I feel like a lot of people don't know her anymore at this point. That's a little sad. The actress Laurie Petty. I know Laurie from movies like Tank Girl, which was a comic book movie, and I knew her from that after knowing her from Free Willy. Movie lovers, if you are of a certain generation like myself, Free Willy was everything when you were like
I
5 or
watched
6
Free
years
Willy.
old.
I don't remember it, but
And
I watched it.
she was very much a central character in that, and therefore I think I probably watched Free Willy before I saw A League of Their Own, and I think it was part of what attracted me to this movie was like, oh, that's the woman from Free Willy.
Now, can I stop you here? 2 things.
Sure.
One, this woman looks just like Ellen DeGeneres.
She does not.
No, literally, her face is exactly the same. Put some blonde wig on her, blonde short wig. The other thing is, I'm looking at your opening credits that you have written down. You spelled Gina Davis's name wrong. It's
Yeah, that happens.
Geena.
Was that entirely necessary
Yeah,
for you to
because
put me on blast?
that's
with...
a weird way to spell Gina. So you're not wrong. I spelled
Okay,
it.
but so you didn't like stop and say movie lovers. By the way, did you know that her name is... No, you stopped the entire podcast, brought it all the way to a screeching halt to be able to say Nick's an idiot. That's how you chose to do that.
Marriage. Okay, who else is in your opening credits?
Well, we haven't even gotten to Tom Hanks.
Oh.
Speaking of household names, Tom Hanks, America's dad. I mean, I feel like this movie is one of the first ones that he was coming out of movies like Big and some other things where he was kind of the romantic lead or things of that nature. And this... he's kind of a father figure to a lot of these women in some ways. So other supporting casts that I think are worth mentioning, you got your Rosie O'Donnells, your Madonnas, which at some point Danielle turned to me while we were watching this movie and said, that woman looks like Madonna. And I said, not just looks like. And she went, what?
Because maybe we're going to get to this later, but dang, Madonna did a great job.
I think she did a phenomenal job
killed it
acting
in this
movie.
role.
Yeah, she was one of those people who was looking like she might make a thing of acting for a while there, and I guess just decided not to. Maybe she thought it was too hard. She had enough money, she didn't care. I don't know.
Yeah, and what about Rosie O'Donnell? Like, this and Tarzan are the only movies she's ever done, right?
Rosie O'Donnell was in a lot in the late 80s and through the mid 90s. Rosie O'Donnell had her own TV show for like 10 years.
That's not a movie.
Anyway, there's also John Lovitz in this movie who's got a bit role, but he was probably the first time I watched this, other than Tom Hanks, might have been the person I knew the most. Gary Marshall plays the Wrigley person. Gary Marshall, for movie lovers, may recognize that name because he directed and I think wrote Princess Bride, which is, no, not Princess Bride, Princess Diaries. Princess Diaries.
Oh, we like him.
Indeed, Princess Diaries and Pretty Women. Pretty Woman. Pretty Women. I like those Pretty Women. And then Bill Pullman. I love Bill Pullman. I am a stan for his Not Go Quietly Into the Night speech oh my gosh.
Who does he play in this movie?
He's her husband from A Home from the War.
Okay, cool. His name's Bob.
I think that is the character's name. That is accurate.
I don't know who Bill Pullman is, honestly.
Bill Pullman's another great actor.
Wait, is he in Twista?
He is in Twister.
Why did I know that?
Wait, no. My bad. Sorry. I'm like confusing him with another Bill. No, the guy from that is also the guy from Aliens and...
Uh-oh.
Oh gosh.
It'll come to us.
It's gonna come
via
to me
the
eventually.
internet.
It's another Bill. He has sadly passed. Bill Pullman, I believe, is still with us, but the guy who was in Twister is no longer.
Bill Paxton?
That's what it is.
I didn't even look it up. That also came to mind. Okay, but their names are
Congrats.
similar.
They are similar names, and they got similar-ish roles, so I'm sure that they had a very difficult time. Music by Hans Zimmer, which is just like a
Oh.
really well-known guy, and this must have been one of his earlier works, I would
I
presume.
didn't catch that. That's cool.
I caught that just in the credits. And then it's directed by Penny Marshall, which I did not Google this. I should have. I wonder if she has any relation to Gary Marshall. I don't know if they're brother sister or married perhaps.
Oh.
But Penny Marshall also directed Big and directed Renaissance Man with Danny DeVito and like is kind of a really well-known commodity or quantity within Hollywood.
I will say I'm glad they have a female director for this female movie.
Oh, yes. I feel like that
They don't do
necessary.
that often, and it took a long time for them to do that back to today, where they're like, oh, yeah, Wonder Woman will have a female director.
Yeah, they're still making a big deal out of it. It's like, hey, we actually chose to have a woman direct this. And it's like, no duh. Anyway, I think that might be the longest that we've ever taken to get through opening credits because of all of our fun tangents. But hopefully our movie lovers like it as much as we had fun with it. That is everything I had for it. Gina Davis, spelled
Yes.
Geena. All right, Danny. My bit's done. Are you prepared for your bit?
Absolutely not. I never am, but bring it on.
All right, everyone, movie lovers, it is time for everyone's favorite segment, Danny's Dingle.
Time for Danny's Dingle.
Ding! Softball. Sisters. One perfect, one Ellen DeGeneres. A scout. The war. Baseball. Girls can't play baseball. 100 tryouts, 64 spots. Uniforms? Sliding in skirts? Tom Hanks is wasted. Winning. Alcoholism cured. Sad. Very sad. Men die. Then men come back. Then women stop playing because men come back. Then old women remember the baseball. The end.
All right, then. Couple of corrections.
Oh.
I mean, since you corrected me,
Oh.
I figure it's only fair.
Okay.
They play baseball, not softball.
At the beginning, they played softball because she does a windmill pitch. Yo,
Fart
I
nuggets.
played softball for like 10 years.
I
bro.
did not specifically catch that, nor did I understand that you were trying to like just refer to that specific part of the
Yeah,
scenes.
it opens with
where it
their
was
playing
softball.
softball. That's
All
how they
right.
got scouted.
Did you notice the scene when they were at training or whatever, and they were like teaching the woman that she needed to throw it
Yeah.
overhand instead of under? Okay, okay. So you did track something that I just didn't clock, and I will retract
Yeah, that's right.
my
That's why you don't
statement.
correct me. I'm always right.
something like that. Anyway,
Can I say, when this movie started, okay, we're getting into it.
I was about to say, I know you've kind of already said it. What's your love story with this movie?
Oh, I watched it Sunday. But to be fair, I've known a lot of references from it. I've seen the uniforms very many times. I think it's a pretty popular Halloween costume.
Oh, okay.
And I'm always like, oh yeah, I've seen that movie. And I swear that I had seen parts of this movie. And then Nick put it on, and I was like, I've never seen this movie. And truly, I enjoyed every dang minute of it. It had me chuckling. I cried very many times.
It's good.
I got goosebumps. I loved it.
It's very good.
What's your love story, Nick?
So my love story is I did actually see it, but in parts at first. So I definitely would have caught it in portions on HBO. As I kind of already mentioned, I'm pretty sure that I saw Laurie Petty, knowing her from
The Ellen DeGeneres Show.
yeah, that. So then I saw her and immediately was like, ooh, and stuck around trying to see that, and probably also thought Gina Davis was cute. But I mean, I would have been like 5 or 6 because this was when it was on HBO. I'm sure within a year or two after it was on in theaters. Not that I would have ever seen it in theaters.
How
but
old
yeah,
were you in
so
1992? 5. You were 5.
Yeah, that's what I said, 5 or 6.
So,
So
well,
like,
it doesn't come
so
immediately on HBO Max in the 90s.
I was saying 93, and I said Free Willy came out in 93. I did see that in theaters, so I'm sure it was probably sometime after 93.
We're fighting.
We're really fighting. This is movie lovers are getting a little bit of a glimpse and some tension that's happening between us. Arrgh. So anyway, I saw Laurie Petty, thought that I probably was there, but then like I watched little bits and pieces and then like kept wanting to see more and more of it. And it was one of those movies that I can remember when I used to watch HBO and other movie channels. I would start in the middle somewhere and then see bits and then eventually would be like really excited if I like happened to catch it at a time when it was starting right at the beginning.
Yeah, if you didn't have VHS back in the day, you didn't get to choose when you press start.
VHS.
You had to just catch it on the TVs.
I was gonna say I wasn't even gonna even reference VHS, but I was gonna say for the movie lovers that are young enough, before there was streaming or DVR or anything where it was on television and you could just choose to then watch it whenever you wanted to. You literally had to find the schedule, and I can remember scrolling through the menu that they would have. Go to a hotel room, kids, and you'll probably see the same exact thing happening on the cable box. So anyway, I caught it one time and then saw it all the way through, but I had a crush on Laurie Petty, I think, because of her. Come to think of it, this might be where my sort of like short hair attraction comes from very early on, because I think her as an actress, she had short hair. Like it was a popular thing in the 90s, but she had short hair in the Free Willy movie, and so that was part of where I had a crush on her from there. Eventually caught the whole thing. I remember it being sort of the first time that made me think about, and maybe this is saying something to me, I don't know if it was the first time I watched it, but I eventually remember it being the first thing that made me think about like the nature of war not in war. Like I was familiar with war movies, like where you have people fighting, but this really makes you think about like the real world impacts, stakes of back at home, so to speak.
Agreed.
In a way that I had never thought about probably before this movie. And it was the first movie I can remember memorizing a movie quote.
There's no crying in baseball.
There's no crying
Everyone
in baseball.
knows that one. But back in the day,
Exactly.
probably not.
Exactly. And it was a quotable thing right off the bat from the get-go. All right, that's my love story. Danielle, go into what your reactions are and thoughts are, and let's do it maybe even a little bit scene by scene, because I know that's how you like to do things.
Thank you for letting me do that. We're not fighting anymore. No, what I was going to say earlier is when you first turned on this movie and you pressed play on the streamings, I had no idea what was happening, because it starts with old women, an old woman, and her daughter.
Gina Davis in old lady makeup.
That was not Gina Davis.
I am 98% certain.
No,
it was.
I'm pretty sure all the women they got were other old women.
I am 98% certain this is true. Remember when we were at the end of it and I was like, oh, I thought they had some kind of afterthought thing, like a text box or something afterwards. I thought I remember this, but I must have seen it on some like behind the scenes thing. The older women that she interacts with when she goes to the Hall of Fame thing, those are actually the women who were in the league in real life.
I figured that.
But that is Gina Davis in old lady makeup.
Because if it is, especially for the 90s, damn, that was good.
Okay, you keep talking.
I thought that they got like someone who looked... Anyways, I had no idea what was happening, because I'm like, I know it's supposed to be young women. Then I was like, oh, is her daughter going to go play? And then I realized it was, quote, present day, which was like the 80s, basically, early 90s.
92, we've established.
Yes. And then she flashes back to 1943. Also, did not think that... I guess I'm not good at history, but I didn't realize this was in the 40s. And
World War II.
Dottie is Gina Davis. Kit is the name of an American Girl doll, and I just love it. And honestly, during this movie, I was thinking, could we name our child Kit? I think that's a very cute name. And then I was like, is it short for Kit? Catherine? Kit? Anyways, Kitty. One of the first lines I wrote down from Gina Davis was, listen, I'm married. This is happy. I'm happy. This is what I want. Like, that's her excuse to not play baseball. She goes, I'm married.
Because that's all you needed as a woman. You were married and therefore you were happy. And why would you need anything else in your life?
She has cows. She's taken over the farm, but soon her husband will be manager, Bob. And she's happy she doesn't need anything else. She's married.
I mean, are you not fully satisfied entirely in your life because you are married to me?
No! I need other things.
Oh my God, I love that response.
But I think that really, truly set the tone of the movie, because this movie is so brilliant that it's like showing how ridiculous it was back in the day to be a woman, but also like the reality and like, yeah. So that was just like, damn, girl. But then luckily Kit was like, let's go, let's go, let's go. And then they go and they try out for baseball in the greatest city in the world, Chicago, Illinois.
Which, based upon the thanks and everything in there, clearly that was actually shot at Wrigley Field.
Yeah, I mean, the sign was the same shape.
And they walked out onto the field from the grass wall or the green wall, the wall of ivy, whatever they call it at Cubs Stadium. Wrigley Field.
I don't know. I'm a freaking Sox.
Okay. Anyway, update.
Yeah.
I have to eat crow.
Again.
First hit. That older woman you see at the beginning of the film playing the part of Dottie Hinson is not Gina Davis.
I freaking called it.
It's actually another actress named Lynn Cartwright, who just happens to look exactly like a Davis if she were 65 years old.
See? I knew that was another woman.
All right.
But I thought they did a very good job.
Props to you.
So anyways, they get to Chicago, they get to baseball tryouts, and they're like, we got 64 spots for...
Can I give a couple of notes?
Sure. Go ahead.
She's like, I got to do this linear thing, and then so I'm worried if I don't get my notes in while you're doing your linear thing.
Okay,
then
do it.
All right. So a couple of things. One, I've watched this movie a lot, but because of the nature of the fact that I said I like catch it at the beginning or catch it in weird parts, I like always forget that there's this old person at the beginning part.
Yeah.
Like the part that kind of threw you off. And what movie are we watching?
Mm-hmm.
Even knowing and having seen it a couple of times now, like I watched it, I'm like, oh yeah, wait, because I always remember it at the end, but not the beginning. I also really, and I thought this through the sort of pushing, shoving, the first mule nag line and the what can't you even let me walk faster than you, and she says, yeah, of course I can, go ahead, and then like proceeds to like have to walk faster than her. I identify with that sibling relationship almost too much.
And that also sets the tone of the whole movie of like these sisters are constantly competing, and Dottie Kit is always looking up to and trying to beat Dottie.
Yeah. And like never feels like she's quite enough. And yeah, even though, anyway, I won't go into the psychology of it. I'll leave that for my therapist. The other thing I was going to say is the $30 a week. They're like, oh man, we're making $30 a week here at the dairy. And I'm just like, fuck, I know that this is, really old dollars, but $30 a week.
But then they're going to get paid $75 a game.
More than a doubling in salary.
That's a lot.
I like it.
I also wrote down, before we get to Chicago, sorry, thank you for bringing it back, John Leguizamo.
Lovitz.
Is John Leguizamo a different guy?
Yes.
Oh. John Lovitz.
They have different names.
The scout. I said he's perfect in this role because he's an asshole.
I literally have the note, John Lovitz, such a dick.
He does an amazing job. He's just such a jerk. I can't remember the things he said, but I'm like, oh, burn.
So many things. And then I love the moment when he's like being like some of the worst things that he says about Marla's character, for example, when she comes and like lifts her head, like the ugly quote unquote girl, who also finds love, by the way. But he's like, and like she's got a resemblance. And I love though when Gina Davis and Kit, they discover like, oh, he's not going to take her just because she's not pretty enough. And without a word, they both put down their luggage and they're like, no, fuck you. Like, yes. That's not a thing.
Yeah. I cried a little bit during that part because it was heartbreaking that this girl can bat righty and lefty so good. The guys were like, ah! And then she's, quote, ugly, so they won't scout her. But then you find out later that they want pretty girls. That's why they put them in
these nice skirts and dresses. Because surely you could never, well, and maybe in the 40s you couldn't, but you can't attract people to watch women just come play baseball for the sake of baseball. God, no. Never.
Oh, that was just so messed up. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, when they get to Chicago and they start describing the teams, so I don't know if this is getting ahead of where you wanted to be. Okay, I'm going to assume not. I didn't realize, because the last time I watched this, I don't think I was living in Chicago, or at least was not aware of other areas around Chicago. And so when I had watched this movie so much growing up, I assumed that like this was like baseball as I know it, where the different teams were around the country. And this, although it is the All-American Girls League, like basically is in like the Chicagoland area.
But Rockford and Racine are not close to Chicago.
Granted, okay, so maybe like Great Lakes area or Midwest, but it's like, you know, it should be the Midwestern Baseball League or the Great Lakes Great Lakes Baseball League, because it's Rockford, which is, you know, an hour or two from here.
3.
We'll argue that point later.
I'm gonna be right again.
Just gonna Google it. Blue Island, which
that's down the street from us.
That was one of the teams, is literally right by us. Racine, I know is as I only know because of Racine, like the street, but I know that I don't know how far away that is.
Oh, it was right. It's an hour 45 minutes. Okay, all right, okay.
Oh, movie lovers, this feels so good to be able to.
Depends on the traffic, though.
Of course it does.
Racine is in Wisconsin.
I knew that, and I knew that Racine was in Wisconsin, and there was, I think, another one that was up there. But anyway, point being, like I can remember thinking when they are the Rockford Peaches, I was like, in my head, I kept thinking Georgia Peaches. They were from Georgia. It must be some town, Rockford in Georgia. But no, it's like literally just up the way from Chicago.
And I kept turning to you to be like, there's only 4 teams? Because they made it seem like they're driving all night or whatever, that they're playing girls around the country. And I don't know. We should look it up to see if they're in other places or there were literally only 4 teams, because then what's the point of a World Series?
Well, I mean, it was the only baseball that was occurring is the answer to that question, and what's the point? And you could put it on radio. And I do think that older, like, vehicles, they maybe did have to drive all night to be able to get to a place, especially because they, like, he made that comment where he was like, they had to drive all night to play a doubleheader the next day. Well, a doubleheader can, like, you know, 2 games could take 8 to 9 hours. And so if you have to start that at 9 a.m. or 10 a.m.
Meh.
Okay, anyway,
We'll
just
Google
tuning
it.
me out. Go on.
So
Continue
they get to the
with your
field,
story.
they introduce Rosie O'Donnell and
Rosie O'Donnell.
surprise, Madonna.
That girl looks like
What a
Madonna.
babe. She's just smoking as she's playing, which I think is hysterical.
I always appreciate the dynamic between those two characters, Rosie O'Donnell's character and Madonna's character. I think May and I'm forgetting Rosie's character, but their back and forth as like sisters to me is just always spot on. That sisterhood you feel right off the bat.
Who would have thought Madonna and Rosie O'Donnell would be friends? I bet they're not friends anymore. And then the second time I cried already in this movie, truly I think almost cried the hardest. Second hardest was when they're reading. I'm gonna cry thinking about it right now. They're reading the baseball lineup, and there's just a girl like sadly looking at the lineup, and you think, oh, she's just upset that she didn't make the team, but she literally can't read her own name. And so another girl comes up and is like, "Can you read, honey?" No? Okay, let me find it for you. And that was just so heartbreaking and heartwarming at the same time, but it was the reality that some people just couldn't read back then. She doesn't know what her own name looks like. And then it just shows like oh, my goosebumps I'm getting. The like this sisterhood and how much they actually, even though they were competing with each other, they cared about each other. And that goes later to Madonna on the bus is teaching her. She's literally teaching her how to read, which is awesome. She's teaching her how to read smut, but she's still teaching her how to read, which I truly, truly love.
Now, don't smut shame. Don't smut shame.
Oh, no, I've been reading some spicy books. I like it. And then they are like, okay, good job, ladies. You made the team. Here's your uniform. And they have that little model come up and model it. And they're skirts. And then later on, they show these girls sliding in skirts with these giant bruises and, oh, God.
I love that they took a moment to, like, because they show that cool slide, and it's during that, like, it's this huge montage of, you know, oh, they're doing all these cool things and showmanship to make people pay attention more than they were. But, like, they take a moment to be like, yeah, and this is, like, hurting. This is sacrifice the body type stuff here.
Yeah. It's a lot. Women were doing it in skirts. What is it? In heels and backwards or whatever.
I was going to say, I think I said this to you while we were watching it. It makes me think of I think it's Fred Astaire, and This Is How Terrible It Is and how much it's baked in. I don't even remember the woman's name, but she was quoted always as having said, because she was Fred Astaire's dancing partner, scene partner in a lot of movies, I had to do everything Fred Astaire did backwards and in heels. So like there's this impressive thing. Everybody talks about the guy and they're like, look how awesome his acting is. Look how awesome his dancing is. And the woman over here being like, yeah, I did all of that times 2, like, and that's kind of what they had to do here. Is like they have to play baseball, they have to make it interesting, and then they also have to do crazy shit like slide up with a little bit of a skirt, or catch it backwards with your hand in your baseball cap instead of in your glove, or the first thing that gets it going with Dottie, like catching the ball as the catcher, like by doing the splits. And she like does the splits and catches it, like. All amazing. Very cool, but again, like, you have to not only play baseball, but you have to be a showman on top of it in ways that men never do.
Yeah. They also send them to charm school, which I'm like, what the hell does that have to do with baseball? Which it doesn't. That's just showing the ridiculousness of having to be a woman.
I was going to say it has nothing to do with baseball. It has to do with, we want them to be prim and proper if we're going to have them be speaking to the public and etc. and the news press. And it's the same reason that they have to all stay in a house together, because unmarried women could not just like live wherever they wanted to. You had to have them in those like boarding houses essentially with a chaperone. Had to have that chaperone.
Yeah, which is funny because they later literally poison the chaperone so that they can go out dancing, which I loved. I don't remember what happened at this point where I wrote this note, but it said the men in this movie suck. I think it's probably the crowd. They're getting booed and laughed at, even though they're so good at baseball. They suck.
I was going to say, so this maybe fits into a note that I had too. I forget always how long it takes for Tom Hanks to like come around to their side. Like I remember him always being a drunken asshole that first game, but like it is like half the season, and it's after she has like started catching balls with, like, basically he's the same thing as the rest of the crowd. Like nobody's paying enough attention until like they're not only playing the sport well, but also doing crazy things while playing the sport.
And until he can mansplain to her that's not the right way to coach.
Yeah.
She takes over, Gina Davis takes over as coach, because who else is going to do it? Tom Hanks is a drunk. And then he's like, wait. Now that you've kind of made this team good, I'm going to step in and take credit for it. Typical fucking, man. I just got really mad.
That's 2 F-bombs now, I think. Uh-oh. We just lost that non-explicit.
So also I wrote Tom Hanks is ageless, and his intro to the women, hysterical, where he just walks in and pees in front of them. And then the woman wants her baseball card signed for her husband. And she's like, if anything happens to this card, I'm in big trouble. And then Tom Hanks just rips up his own baseball card.
Yeah.
It was very sad. I think later on that's the lady whose husband dies.
Yep.
That's very sad.
Yeah, just to add to that.
The other thing that proves that women are badass and like have to go through all this stuff is they bring the child. She's like, I have to bring my kid with me. And his name is
Stillwell.
Oh my God. And that kid plays that role real well.
You're gonna lose.
He actually says you're gonna win when he's taunting them. He says, you're gonna win. You're gonna win.
I really don't think so.
Okay. Roll the tapes.
We're checking it.
We'll check it later. But that was just hysterical, and the kid just kind of gets beat up by people, and the mom's like, that's fine. Like, Madonna chases the kid with a bat. Tom Hanks chases him with a bat. The poor trauma that kid probably has.
Well, it was a little shit.
Also, this dancing scene is unbelievable with
swing
Madonna
dancing.
and Rosie O'Donnell, where Rosie O'Donnell plays the man and Madonna plays the woman, and they're like, oh, so good. So good. One of the best dancing scenes I've seen.
So do we think that those two were intended to be a couple? Because like there's a lot of that first episode that we have seen of the show. They try very intentionally and clearly to sort of mirror, repeat, rhyme with some of the way things are filmed. But one of the things that happened is the sort of Madonna-esque character in the TV show, so far, and after the first episode, like, it's kind of unclear if maybe she has a thing with the Rosie O'Donnell-esque character, but also is still kind of like the quote-unquote slut and is going off with men. So I don't know. What do we think? For Rosie and Madonna's character back in the 1992 movie, was that ever... Do you think that was intended to kind of be that that's what was going on there? We just weren't going to be explicit about it? No?
No, I don't think so, but I do think Madonna would... She probably did make out with Rosie O'Donnell just because she likes sex and physical touch.
I mean, didn't Madonna make out with, like, Britney Spears?
Oh, iconic, baby.
Yeah, okay.
Also, the thing that I thought was really great that kept evolving was Tom Hanks started with, "You're not ball players. They're not ball players. They're not ball players." And then at the end, he goes, "You're ball players. There's no crying in baseball. You're ball players." And then it, like, just throughout he evolves. When
she like is leaving and Gina Davis is gonna not stick around for the team, she's trying to sneak off. He says to her, "I thought you were a ball player." Mm-hmm. Like as like almost a ribber. On the topic of Tom Hanks and Gina Davis, do you think it's intended for that to be a romantic subplot?
I think there's hope for there to be a romantic. I think Tom Hanks's character was secretly hoping that Gina Davis's husband was going to die.
Okay.
In war.
Okay. So that kind of rings with how I used to always feel about it, and that's why I asked, is because like I was realizing as I was watching it this time for the first time that maybe because we've talked a lot on this podcast before about like how every movie from the 90s through the 2000s seemed like even when it wasn't necessary, there was some kind of romantic subplot. Like there would be characters that had no reason to exist in a romance, but we're just going to cram it in here because we can't have a story without there being a boy meets a girl part of things. And watching it this time, I realized maybe I was the one sort of imposing the boy meets girl thing on it, and it wasn't the movie creator's intention for there to be any sort of romance between them. But I think maybe what I've been picking up on is what you just said. Like, and maybe this time I realized, being a little bit more aware, I saw her, Gina Davis's performance and the writing and the character being that she truly was devoted to her husband. But what I had previously been picking up on thinking there was a romantic subplot is because I was identifying with and watching and attaching to Tom Hanks and his character. And I think maybe the way it's written and played is that, yeah, like you're saying, he kind of has this hope. Like he has an attraction to her. He knows the things he's supposed to say in terms of like talking about her husband, but you know, wouldn't have been mad if the husband had passed away and then he had his chance.
Yeah, but I don't think he ever pushes it or anything. I think he truly admires her because she's a very good baseball player and also just like an overall good human. Like I wrote down this note, Tom Hanks just stops drinking because they don't really address it. The only time they ever show anything is when he says, "I think it's time for a drink," and Gina Davis hands him a Coca-Cola instead of a beer. And so I think he's even an inspiration, or she's an inspiration to him to be like, okay, I can be a better guy. I can be a better coach. I can be a better man. I can stop drinking. So, but I do want to say that this movie was missing a little bit about explaining him drinking because he was
like horrible, a literal fall down drunk.
Yes, was sleeping the whole time, scratching his balls for hours, peeing in front of women, and then all of a sudden he's just like not.
Yeah, and I feel like there's different parts of that I agree that it's not written or you don't see the transition, but Tom Hanks's acting communicates that transition has occurred to the point where like the very first scene we see him with, Harvey, whatever, not Wrigley name that character is.
Baker?
Baker is the TV show now, I think.
Harvey.
Oh yeah, it's Harvey. It's literally Mr. Harvey Bars.
Yeah.
Anyway, so like he's like, "Let me be blunt. Are you still a fall down drunk?" Like that's literally, he's like, "I'm going to ask you if you want this job, but I'm going to start with asking the question, are you a fall down drunk?" is how he describes it. And Tom Hanks is like, "No, ha ha ha. I'm really, cleaned my act up." And the guy says, "Well, I'm glad you saw the error of your ways." And Tom Hanks goes, "No, I just ran out of money." Like literally just outright says, "No, I'm still like, basically I'm a fall down drunk. I just can't afford to be one anymore."
Yeah. And he also says like, "You were such a good baseball player." And Tom Hanks is like, "I know, but my knee injury." And the guy's like, "You busted your knee falling out of a hotel."
Oh, but in my defense, there was a fire
that you started. This writing is very, very funny and it's very brilliant.
Yeah, the dialogue's quite good. But yeah, and then later on, Tom Hanks is like, the peeing scene we talked about already, but later he's like actually inspirational and has a lot of different gears. Tom Hanks is a really good actor. Anyway.
Yeah. And then, so Bob comes back from war because he hurt himself.
Bill Pullman.
Bill Paxton.
No, no.
Bob.
President from Independence Day.
He comes back for more, and then Dottie, that bitch, she stopped playing. She did.
Right there. She said all she had was a husband. That's all she needed to make her happy.
Mm-hmm. But luckily, she comes back. But they don't even really need her. I will say they were doing pretty well. They made it, wasn't it tied 3-3 in the World Series without her? And then she gets to come back for Game 7. I'm like, damn, girl, you chose a man. Stay out.
I understand where you're coming from, but I think the beautiful thing about this movie is, to me, it's communicating the difficulty that women have to embrace things that they love.
Yeah.
Like we made light of it and made a joke at the beginning of this half of the podcast where we're talking about like, oh, aren't you just happy because you have me? But truly, and there are still people today that believe this, like you should just be made happy because you have your partner and that's it. And like you and I have talked about this. Even I struggle with being open and sharing and being proud of the things that make me happy outside of you, and like allowing myself to be attached to those. So it's not even an entirely gendered thing.
You're right.
Although it is definitely gendered for a lot of other people, and in this movie more so.
Yeah, you're right. I guess I am also glad. I was just, being a little
I know you're being
facetious.
funny, but jokes aside, I got to bring the somber in. I got to bring the real, the grit of the movie. Yeah, I just got to ruin your day. That's pretty much why I'm here.
But it is great that she comes back because it proves that she is able to make her own decisions and say what she wants. That she doesn't choose baseball over him because that's her last game, but she still loves baseball enough to be like, this is important to me. She said they got all the way to Idaho or something.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yosemite.
It's a long way. Yeah, maybe it was Yosemite.
And they turned back around so she could make it for the game.
And I will say, and I wrote this note, I'm very glad that they have Bill Pullman's character be a supportive husband.
Agreed. He's not abusive. He's just like loves his woman very much and hurt his knee.
Yeah. And clearly, like he wanted to come to her as soon as he could. It's just like, it's not like he wants to prevent her from doing this thing that she loves. Like, I truly believe that if she had said, this is important to me, it's what I want to do. Like, if she said, I'm going to put my foot down, this is what I want my career to be, I want you to move here and find work here. Otherwise, he would have. I think he would have. And I actually also think that, like, she's the type of character who knows that. And that's why she didn't ask him to. Mm-hmm. But she did obviously, like, allow herself to embrace, like, I got to have this last game. I got to finish out this one season so I can at least say I did this thing all the way to the end. But I just love that he's in the stands. He's there supporting her. He
says, that's my wife.
Yeah, it's all about it.
Which is awesome. And then we get to the final game, which they did a great job of building tension because we didn't even talk about, but Dottie accidentally gets kicked off the team. Transferred.
Yes, unintentionally.
Traded. That's the word they use in baseball. And so they're against each other in the World Series.
And before we go further with that, I want to walk it back.
Uh-oh.
We skipped over what I think is just such a powerful scene. I've got like a half a page of notes dedicated to this.
Oh, you're right. When the War Department comes.
That telegram scene is just heart-wrenching.
I really was like sobbing a little bit.
Yeah, I do. And I think I have every time since I've understood what's going on in that scene. I can remember seeing that scene early enough in my life. Like I said, I've seen it the first time when I was like 5, where I didn't fully comprehend what was happening. Do you know what I mean? I just, like, all I got from it was, oh, Tom Hanks is defending them and being sort of chivalrous in some way. Oh, man. But when you realize what's happening, and the acting in Tom Hanks, the acting in the woman whose husband ends up dying, the acting in Gina Davis, the acting in, like, there's other women in the room who, like, as Tom Hanks is walking slowly through their locker room, and you're getting closer and closer to Gina Davis and the other one, and there's just this tension building, and you just, like, you're feeling it well. I literally, like, I wrote down, I don't think I had a full breath for, like, that scene. Basically, from the moment you realize it's the War Department and you've got this idiot telegram guy being like, I can't now, I gotta check the box, and, like, I held my breath, like, I couldn't breathe. And then the moment they let you know who it is, I'm like and, like, just it really gets to you in a lot of ways.
And it's brilliant writing because they just mention it a couple of scenes before where it's like, I just haven't heard from Bob in a couple weeks. And Tom Hanks is like, well, you would get the bad telegraph if something happened.
Yeah.
Which to me, again, I'm not a historian, so like I wouldn't understand the gravity of that scene if they hadn't mentioned that before. And they did it in not a like in your face kind of way. They did it in a brilliant like, hey, by the way, audience, pay attention to this because it's gonna happen later. And then I as a woman, I kind of put myself in her shoes to be like, any one of these married women, just at any day, could get a note, hey, your husband died. And there's nothing they could do about it. And they're trying to do their best back home, playing baseball in lieu of men being here. Like, that's unbelievable what women of that generation just had to deal with and go through.
Yeah, and I would say that that scene hits differently now that I am in a maritable, lifelong, committed relationship.
Yeah. And they even talk about a little bit, I don't know if it's before or after, where they're like, so what? Men come back and now women are just expected to go back to what they were doing before? Like, women are freaking badass.
Yeah, you told them they had to leave the kitchen because it was their patriotic duty, and now they're just supposed to go back.
Yeah. To, like, pick up everything that a man had to do before. They were the ones running the machines, playing baseball, taking care of the kids while playing baseball, all this stuff, while waiting for a telegraph to say their husband died, and then just say, go back to the kitchen. And the sad part is, like, that guy who's in charge of the team.
Harvey.
The younger one.
Oh, okay. I don't remember that.
I don't know his name, but he's a very, very good guy. And he's like, no, I believe that people will come for women's baseball. We're not just going to send them back. I don't think they need to be back in the kitchen. Things need to change. But the sad thing is they didn't. Women were sent back to the kitchen.
Yeah.
In the 1950s.
Yeah.
Like, that's all they did, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's as women were seen as housewives back then. So it was bittersweet to be like, oh, it's so nice they're telling this story of the 40s of these men who are like, it's not okay, women power. But then to know the reality of like, nah, people still believe that women belong in the kitchen barefoot, pregnant. Messed up. Anyways.
On a somewhat lighter note, because I can't say that better than what you just did. Speaking back to the writing and how good the writing is, also like, so not only that they've set it up that we're worried about her getting a telegram, then they have the long walk, and it's like this 1-2 punch, like from emotional. So you have the gasp of you finally get to breathe because you find out it's not her husband, but then you're just pouring out your heart to this other character who has lost her husband, and it's like almost a smash cut to her husband walking in when she's back at the house that they live in. Mm-hmm. And it's like this, you haven't even fully wiped away the tears of sadness from the last scene before you are being just overwhelmed with tears of joy and relief that her husband is still there.
Yeah, that was nice. Especially because she was sobbing because she had just got into a huge fight with her sister, which brings us back to the tension at the end of the game, where it's sister versus sister, literally 2 outs. She's running towards home. It's the game-winning run. And Gina Davis drops the ball. Now, I'm sure this is the $1 million question. We're not the first ones asking this. Did she do it on purpose?
I don't think she did.
I disagree, but go ahead.
I think that she wants to be there for her sister and wants to let her sister succeed. And maybe this is where you're going to refute me, and that's like growth. But I don't think that the movie makers communicated clearly enough that she did let it happen. And so I choose to believe that her true nature was that she was trying to stop her sister. Just like she couldn't help herself but try to run faster than her sister at the beginning.
And I think that she was so hurt that she was trying to trade herself to a different team. And then Kit got hurt because of it, and everything was just hurting so bad for her and her sister. She was like, this is her moment. Or maybe Kit that was good English. Really did try as hard as she possibly could. Finally was like, I'm going to be my sister. And then she did.
Yeah, I think that's kind of how I always have thought about it. Because I think that there's something to the idea of the quote-unquote lesser sibling truly coming out on their own from the other one's shadow.
One time I headbutted David super hard because he made me so mad, and that was the first time I ever knocked him down. That's my personal anecdote. So then at the end, they make up, and Gina Davis is like, nah, brah, for real, I want to have babies, so I'm gonna leave. And that was the best decision for her, and Kit stayed on for a long time. Okay, unpopular opinion. Your girl, Ellen DeGeneres, what's her name? Laurie
Petty.
She's a bad actress. I said it.
Oh.
She took me out of this movie many times. I just feel like she could not keep up with Gina Davis.
I have to say I can't disagree.
You can't disagree?
I cannot disagree.
Yeah, she's not. She
does take you out of it.
Yeah.
She can't hold her own to Gina Davis
No.
in terms of the acting
Okay,
department.
thank you for confirming that.
Well,
That
and
was the weakest part of this movie was her.
And I admitted, like I said, I liked her in other stuff too. But like looking back now, those 3 movies that I listed, this one, Tank Girl, and she was also in Point Break, but then also Free Willy. So those 4 movies. Couldn't name you another one. And that's because she hasn't, like, that was from the year 1990 to 1994 or 6. And then I can't, like, she's nothing. She's in nothing other than that. So, yeah.
Yeah, she was the only character to me that wasn't believable. I was almost like, they should have cast the sad army wife or the mom. You know, there was a lot of other options. So to give her that big of a role, they took a chance. Luckily, the movie was amazing, so it didn't matter as much, but she was not good.
So, like I'd said at the beginning, I think the women, or at least some of the women at the end, maybe not the like main actresses mimicking Rosie O'Donnell and Madonna and Gina Davis, because I thought it was Gina Davis in old makeup, and it's not. But I am pretty sure at least the women that they filled out, sort of the extras, so to speak, in those scenes where they are opening the portion for them in the Hall of Fame, I'm pretty sure that those are like some of the actual legitimate women who played baseball in the 40s. Because back in 92, you could have still gotten them to be alive and be there.
That is very cool. Yeah, I wrote, did this actually happen?
I mean, obviously, you know, artistic license, but yeah, the story of the American Baseball League and girls being, sorry, they say girls. I did think that was funny too. All American Girls Baseball League, not a girl in the bunch, all women. But yeah, that those women there were women's leagues that were there to support things. I know that was a real thing.
My only note that at the end was they were all like, oh, you have a husband, you have a child. It's like, why did none of them stay in touch with each other over like 40, 50 years if they were that close?
Sorry, everyone. I just hit the mic as I slapped a fly on my forehead. That was, for those of you who got to watch us instead of just listening, that had to have been very entertaining. I think the answer to your question is, you know, the internet wasn't a thing.
Phones were a thing.
Yeah, but like, you know, how much do you call people now? How much do you stay in touch with people now? You know, you would have to write letters, and that's a whole group of people, and you know, they went off and lived their own lives. I could totally see how you would just sort of, especially for Gina Davis's character, where it's like she came and only spent a year there, and clearly part of that character's story is she keeps downplaying her importance. She keeps thinking of it as like, it's this thing I did for a year. I just did it once. But everyone else is like, no, Dottie, you were important. You were part of what made us.
Yeah. I agree. I'm also like, I like at the end, they were like, hey, Aunt Dottie. So like they clearly, Kit's kids knew Dottie. So it's not like they were estranged or anything. So that was good.
Yeah, I was glad for that, because they kind of leave it like it could have been that's what happened, is that they kind of never saw each other again, essentially, when they depart. If I could say, the one thing when you were talking about like family members, speaking back to the like, was it a romantic subplot? The filmmakers make a choice to say like, is your husband joining us, or, you know, where's your husband at or something? And she goes, oh, he passed, you know, 2 years back or something like that. And it was almost immediately after that they show her looking at Jimmy Dugan, Tom Hanks's character's like picture, and they kind of linger on the like year that he died, articulating that he's already dead. And sort of like, that was part of me that was like, are they trying to show that it's like she was wondering maybe that this guy from 40 years ago she could hook up with now that her husband's dead? But no, he's dead too.
Interesting.
I don't know.
The other thing, the last note, because this is this part of it is as long as the movie is.
Not quite.
The one thing that I didn't like that they didn't explore.
Okay.
And I said this to you when we were watching it, but then now there's that new series. There's one 30-second scene where the ball goes over the fence, and then a black woman comes and throws the ball extremely far. Very clearly could have been on that team, but because she was black in the 40s, like, obviously not allowed. And I thought maybe they would explore that more, somehow get her on the team, but it just never, ever even comes back around. Literally ever in that movie. So I thought that was unsatisfying. However, I wonder if that was the impetus for the new League of Their Own TV series, because she's clearly a character like her. There's a black character who they won't let even try out.
Yeah, I suspect that from what I've heard from some of the interviews and things like that, even years ago before the show was available, from Abby Jacobson, it was kind of, they felt that the same way A League of Their Own was pushing an envelope for the 90s, because it's like, it's all about these women who pushed the envelope back in the 40s, who, as you said, kind of got regressed in the 50s and 60s. And then, like, in the 90s, it was this idea of, like, oh, women can do things too. And that was sort of, oh, we're going to make a movie that's all about women. We're going to have a female-led movie. That was a nearly all, I guarantee this movie would not have gotten made in the 90s if they hadn't gotten Tom Hanks to sign on. They sold this movie to studios because Tom Hanks was, like, the bookable actor at the time. Otherwise, people have been like, people don't want to see a movie about women, just as funny as it is in the 40s. People don't want to watch baseball played by women. It's like, but that was the envelope being pushed at the time. Abby Jacobson kind of talked a little bit about, like, some of those things that she felt didn't get explored because it was the early 90s and it would have been not well received popularly to do things like explore sexuality in there. Because I feel like there's some characters, like obviously Rosie O'Donnell, turned out some years later to come out and is gay. And I'm sure there was some homosexuality on those teams because a lot of women, I don't want to paint with a broad brush. I feel like I was about to fall into the same stereotype that I take issue with in the new TV series, that they're kind of implying that every single one of them might be gay, which I don't like. But then the other thing is the race. I feel like, yeah, this new series seems like so far it is going to push the envelope further with regards to sexuality and with regards to race in ways that I don't know that could have been done in a single 2-hour movie, let alone been sort of greenlit to be done back in the 90s.
That's a good point. I also would like to say that Tom Hanks, even though you could look at that as like, oh, it's only because of Tom Hanks. Like, I feel like Tom Hanks did that on purpose. He's like, I know I'm Tom Hanks, but I want this story to be told.
I suspect, because Tom Hanks is
great
pretty
human.
Yeah, I hope that a day never comes where he's one of these celebrities where something comes out where it's like, he's actually been a horrendous human being this whole time, because he really does feel like America's dad. He feels amazing, like a genuine, down-to-earth human being who I think would have picked projects like this, and he would have read it and been like, yeah, I'd love to support women. I'd love to support a woman-led thing. And then what really matters to him as an actor, just being like, oh, it's a good script. It's a good story. Like, you've got a good director and some other good actors for me to play off of. I'm there.
Tom Hanks is one of the greatest humans of all time.
I agree. As far as I know of him, I agree.
An actor. Yeah.
So.
Would you renew your vows, and what is your heart rating? So, movie lovers, if you are new, I know we have some new listeners. By the way, welcome. Thank you for joining us. If you've joined us from, all of our other videos for reactions and whatnot that we've been doing. But this is where we now will give our ratings. It's a 0 to 5 hearts that is intended to be an objective measure of how good we think the movie is. And then a renew your vows. Would you watch this movie again? Is a bit more subjective and has a lot more that goes into it. But Danny, what is your heart rating?
Yeah, dude, I'd give this like a hundo hearts.
Hundo hearts out of 5.
And obviously I would renew my vows. I'm shocked that I haven't seen this movie yet before I'm 30 dang years old.
I am too.
And
like, really,
I wish I had seen this movie when I did my 30 for 30, because I do think it's one of the best movies ever created.
Yes! This movie. Okay, movie lovers.
It's so good.
Some of you know, if you've been watching us long enough, I have a literal list of movies that I wanted to get Danielle to watch.
Was this on there?
This has been on that list since like the first time I created it. Yes.
Which was like 8 years ago.
Yeah, like when we first met each other, it started growing.
Okay, you were right.
Thank you. And I just want to point out, like, there's some of those movies on that list that I wanted her to watch, but I know that she will never feel this way about. This was one of them where I was like, I know that if she watches this, she will love this.
You're right.
And it really is. I think it's one of the greatest movies. I was going to give it You know, as I was sitting here thinking, I'm trying to think about dinging it for things.
Like Kit as an actress.
And that's where but I don't know that that's enough for me to even pull it down a full 0.25. So I think I'm going to give this a 5 out of 5.
Whoa. Is this your first 5 out of 5 we've ever done?
I think it might be.
It took 3 years.
This movie to me holds up.
Yes.
It truly, and maybe it's because it's a period piece that it therefore makes it possible, because it's obviously referencing something that's, way before this movie was made. And the themes, I think, are very much, unfortunately, timeless. And yeah, I think the acting is good. I think the dialogue is good. I think it holds up. I absolutely do renew my vows. I have seen this movie multiple times at various different times, and I feel like it's just every couple of years that ends up getting put on. And yeah, it will get put on again. I'm certain that I will show it to our kids one day as well.
Maybe I'll be a peach for Halloween. Actually, I want to be the yellow one.
Ugh, dang it.
Oh, were they? Were they the Skokie, the Rockford, the Racine?
They were the Racine somethings.
We'll figure it out.
All right. Anyway, I may or may not have had a little bit of shifting happening.
Stop it. Movie lovers, this has been In Love with Movies. I'm Danny.
And I'm Nick.
I love you, Nick.
I love you, Danny.
And we love you, movie lovers. Follow us on all the social medias. Here's all the plugs. Blah, 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 blah. Have a good day. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Do you want me to just put the plugs in later?
Yeah. Goodbye. Is it your birthday, girl? 'Cause you're looking like a present. Is it your birthday, girl? Let's celebrate. Follow us on Twitter at the letter N, Love with Movies, on Facebook at facebook.com/withmoviesandlove, and on Instagram and TikTok at inlove_with-movies.
You can email us at withmoviesinlove, that's all one word, withmoviesinlove@gmail.com, to share your own love stories with us, suggest future love topics that you might want to hear us discuss, or just to say, hey, we'd like to hear from you.
Hey.
All original music written and performed by Danny Smith, with our theme song remixed by Paul Brandt.
And this whole podcast was produced and edited by my lovely husband, Nicholas Baldwin.
Special thank you to Ben Abear for Danny's Dingle and Nick Stretchberry for our website and podcast art.